This is Algebra 1.5, Section 11.3, from general form to factored form. We're going to start by reviewing the form from Section 11.1. Factored form was y equals a, x minus r1, x minus r2. What we're going to do today is basically the backwards version of section 11.2. So that is starting with the trinomial along the diagonal. I got a box on here, starting with the trinomial along the diagonal and working backwards to figure out the numbers that would go into the factors on the sides. Now the zero product property states if a times b equals 0, then a equals 0 or b equals 0. And so what that's going to allow us to do with our factors is if we have x minus a and x minus b equal to 0, then x minus a equals 0 or x minus b equals 0. Let's do it like this. So we will utilize these when we do the examples. Let's go going on those. The first example, write the equation in factored form, then use the zero product property to identify the roots of the equation. So we are going to start with our trinomial along the diagonal. So we want to know what factors are there of the number 10. To multiply to get 10, we can either multiply 1 times 10, or we can multiply 2 times 5. Then we want to think about what combination of adding and subtracting will get us 7. Now, keep in mind that to get 10, we could have 1 times 10. We could also have negative 1 times negative 10. To get 10, we could do 2 times 5. We could also do negative 2 times negative 5. So we want to add together those factors to make negative 7. If I do 1 and 10, I get 11. Negative 1, negative 10, I get negative 11. That's not going to work. If I have 2 and 5, that's 7. But negative 2 and negative 5 makes negative 7. So if both of these factors are negative, those will work. So I'm going to use these numbers in these two corners. Doesn't matter which one you put in which box, but negative 2x goes in one and negative 5x goes in the other. Now that we have the box complete, we can just finish the sides. So I know x times x makes x squared. I know x times negative 5 will make negative 5x. I know negative 2 times x is negative 2x, and negative 2 times negative 5, check, does make 10. So my answer is x minus 2 and x minus 5. That is the equation in factored form. I've completed this part of the example. Then I need to identify the roots. So to do that, we're going to take this piece of the equation and write it x minus 2 equals 0. We're going to take this part of the equation and say x minus 5 equals 0. And then we will solve. If x minus 2 equals 0, I add 2 to both sides. And I have x equals 2. On this side, if I have x minus 5, I'm going to add 5 to both sides. And then x equals 5. Next example. 0 equals x squared plus 6x minus 16. So we will do x squared, 6x, and minus 16. Now I need to know the factors of negative 16. I can do 1 and 16 with one of these being negative, 2 and 8 with one of these being negative, or 4 and 4, with one of these being negative. If I need to combine to make 6, 16 and 1 will either give me 15 or 17. That doesn't work. 2 and 8 will either give me 6 or 10, and that does work. That will give me 6 if the 2 is negative. So negative 2 and 8 makes positive 6. So I'll put negative 2x in one box and positive 8x in the other box. Working your way backwards to fill out the sides of the box, check to make sure 8 times negative 2 does make negative 16, and 8 plus negative 2 does make 6. I know that I have the factors. So y equals x minus 2 and x plus 8. I'm going to, oops, that's supposed to be a minus. Pull out my first factor, x minus 2 equals 0. If I add 2 to both sides, then x equals 2. I'm going to pull out my second factor. If I subtract 8 from both sides, then x is negative 8. Now there is a pattern that can save this work. If you notice that when the x minus 2 was a factor, x equals 2 was a root. It was the opposite sign. A minus 2 was a positive 2. When x was negative 5, when x minus 5 was a factor, then x equals 5 was a root. Again, a minus 5 was a positive 5 for a root. X minus 2 minus positive x plus 8 as a factor gave x negative 8 as a root. The sign is always just the opposite. I'm going to go through this one very quickly. X squared, 2x, negative 48. Factors of negative 48. 1 and 48, 2 and 24, 3 and 16, 4 and 12, 6 and 8. Because it's negative, one of these numbers is going to be negative. To leave with a 2, I can do negative 6 and 8. So negative 6x, 8x gives me x, negative 6, positive 8. So my equation in factored form is y equals x minus 6, x plus 8. My roots are x equals 6 and x equals negative 8. Again, we can do out the work if we need to, or we can use the shortcut that it's the opposite sign. Last one. (28) is 1 and 28, 2 and 14, or 4 and 7. 4 and 7, with both factors being negative, will give me negative 11. So negative 4x, negative 11x, x, negative 4, negative 11, makes positive 28. Y equals x minus 4, x minus 11, x equals 4, and x equals 11. That was a lot of notes, but we are done. So good luck with the exercises.